So, if I consider myself a feminist? Should think about this one for a second.
I don't know. I just...
It's hard for me to articulate. You know what I'm trying to say?
So I'm just trying to formulate the reason why I don't consider myself a feminist.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of a good way to phrase stuff.
Where do you think I should start off?
That's such a hard question.
Like, it depends on how you define it.
I don't even know how you can define, if you're a female, don't you have to be a feminist? Just, if you are a fan of the human race, don't you have to be a feminist?
I do not consider myself a feminist.
I don't consider myself a feminist.
I consider myself a feminist.
I would consider myself a feminist.
Yes, I would consider myself a feminist.
I would consider myself a feminist.
I don't consider myself a feminist.
No, I don't think I'm a feminist.
Yes.
No, I don't think I would.
Yes, I think I would definitely consider myself a feminist.
Yes, I consider myself a feminist.
Yes, absolutely.
Kind of. I do consider myself kind of a feminist.
I consider myself a feminist. I would consider myself a feminist.
I think I would consider myself a feminist.
I guess theoretically, I would consider myself a feminist.
I think deep down, yes. But superficially, no.
I think that I can be honest and say that I don't think I'm a feminist, just because I can be honest and say that I don't know enough about the feminist movement, that I don't want to say I'm a feminist if I don't really know what it entails.
I don't think that I really understand what it is.
To fully consider myself a feminist, I don't know enough of the theory behind it to really say one way or another, but most of what I've or most of what I've heard about it, I do agree with.
I would like to be more educated on it, because I think it probably is something that I would support.
When it comes down to it, like, I'm a woman now, and I just can't really say how things should affect people, because I'm not the one that's being affected by it, so like...
But we definitely still have a voice.
I mean, definitely, but like, while like my perception may seem like something's inconsequential, like, I'm still not being affected by it, so I don't really know how it feels.
As a, let's see, half-white, straight, upper middle class, nearly college educated male, there's not many things that I don't get to do because of who I am. And so I think it's important to recognize that in myself, and then recognize that there are other people who don't get to do things because of who they are. And women are one category of that in many, many cases.
I do believe women should be treated fairly and equally as men, and that they deserve every opportunity.
I definitely feel supportive of gender equality.
Not necessarily only, like female rights, but also male rights, and it just means that everyone should be equal.
Feminist means equality for everybody. It doesn't mean there's some anti-man person, it's just equality.
I would say that I am a feminist because I support, and I would like for myself to have equal opportunities as men or as anybody else.
The simplest way is I think that everyone was born equal and deserves equal rights.
I believe in equality of the sexes, that women should be afforded the same, like all the same opportunities that men are, assuming that they can meet the same, minimum requirements.
I completely am for and support gender equality.
I do agree with women's rights that women should be equal to men. Not superior, not inferior, absolutely equal.
I believe that men and women should be equal and treated equally.
I mean equality as in the workplace, in social standing,
pay rights, voting rights.
To be viewed economically, socially, and independently equal to men.
I think it's not fair, or statistically, that women make less than men.
Very low level sexism that goes on in the workplace.
I think that men are just as equally able to stay at home and provide for the needs in the house.
But I still want to get married young and have kids, and
I think that I'm more traditional in the sense that I want to have kids and raise a family.
There's the whole opinion of the stay-at-home mom.
I don't mind not having a career and as opposed to that.
Being a stay-at-home mom is something that I feel like feminists are against.
In terms of like laundry or cooking or cleaning, I don't think those are jobs specified for women only. I don't think it's right.
That's something that I want to do.
I also think that I can cook, so I think why not, why not show off those talents to whoever.
What is considered to be masculine values are put as sort of what is the ideal in society, and what is considered to be feminine values are devalued. And I've done a lot of the reading I've done is how conversely the political economy of a country or governments, which are mostly male-dominated, undermine those values, both in an economic and a societal fashion.
There's no role that women should fit into. There's no role that men should fit into.
I don't think that there's certain things that only women can do and men can't. And I don't think there's certain things that men can do that women can't.
Feminist tries to break down those role groups and say that we're all in this together as one group instead of two separate groups.
Having grown up in raised by a single mom for a lot of my life, and having her growing up in a country with very rigid gender values, I grew up in Chile. I'd say that definitely there's a lot of elements of it that I completely agree with.
I would consider myself more of an equalist feminist than a separatist feminist. Like I think that all people are equal.
I don't really use the term feminist. I try not to because, in my opinion, at least within my lifetime, and I know it was different in times past, it's a meaningless term. It's often just thrown around to represent all sorts of causes, some of which are genuine fights for equality, which I believe in. As you know, I've heard the term egalitarian used as an alternative, and I very strongly believe that that should be the case. Whereas feminism, I feel, is more of a historical term. It refers to a movement which, while certainly that movement has had many influences and many people which still continue fighting for those goals, I think has expanded. Even in the term feminist, you have the femme, you have that root saying that it's about women, when in reality, today's struggles for equality, while it's true that when it comes to making wages even, very much do involve increasing the status of women, that's just as much true for all sorts of other groups. Immigrant groups, look at for instance, that's something that I've always considered myself fairly politically active in. Immigrant rights, those are oftentimes the same struggle, assuring voting rights, assuring the right to employment. Why limit it by the root femme? Why limit it to women? The ideas are greater.
It's kind of funny at the same time that it's called feminism when, if you're trying to break down the roles and you're already starting from a female-sided version of it.
I really just think that calling something feminism puts an emphasis on the female gender, and I think that that's not what it should be about.
It doesn't help the cause to associate yourself with a group when in people's minds it doesn't really contribute to the equal rights movement, and it's instead, in their minds, a group that's just a bunch of angry women.
Feminism in general often sort of overlooks other themes, sort of promotes. It's not to say selfish. It's almost like overlooking any overarching issues by sort of taking in the issues and saying, oh, it's against women or stuff like that.
I feel like it's more productive to say that you promote, instead that you're a feminist, you promote equal rights, because in the end, that's essentially what you're looking for. It's not because what I've seen, I guess I wouldn't call myself a feminist anyways, because what I am looking for is not necessarily equal rights for women, even though I am. It's equal rights for people in general.
Whenever you come to a general title like that, I think there can be a lot of problems, because many people have different ideas when they think of the word feminist, and a lot, I guess, maybe some of those I wouldn't want to be associated with.
It's a glorification that's for the women who are angry at men and kind of blame men for the world and sort of, this kind of are very pro-women, very just, very typical group of hetero women, which, obviously isn't true.
A lot of guys have the wrong idea about feminism. They think feminism means guys are evil, guys are poison on earth.
There are so many stigmas associated with the word, and there's not really one clear definition.
When I think of feminism, there's so many different connotations that go along with that.
some people see feminism very strongly, like, oh yeah, I'm a feminist, like women's rights, and very strong, intense feeling, and I don't feel that way.
Some of the things that they say I don't exactly agree with because I just think that they take it too far.
Or they overanalyze some of the little things. Sort of take it in and say, oh, this is a big deal, when it's actually not. In the overall scheme of things, it's not.
I find a lot of the behavior and a lot of the causes that get dubbed feminist causes and the way feminists try to tell everyone that they're a feminist really perturbing.
I'm not that extreme.
I think for me, like, there's a certain level of feminists. I like people that have that, but if it's like too much, like, I don't know, it's like, it seems like very rebellious.
I wouldn't say that I'm like an angry feminist. Like, I'm not gonna go like confronting people when they make like horrible comments or things like that.
Kind of almost puts down guys or just assumes that like they're always getting better treatment or better opportunities available to them. I just don't think that that's how it is.
There's a lot of things about feminism that I don't agree with. And if I said I'm a feminist, a lot of people might think that I believe in things that maybe I don't.
From the community, those who aren't feminists usually don't agree with feminist standpoints because it's usually taken to extremes. So although I agree with what feminists stand for, I don't like the labeling.
Usually the loudest voice is heard. And in feminism, the crazy person that says, I'm a feminist, and guys are the root of all evil, and then all of a sudden, that's the connotations that some people have of the group of feminism. So I would say I don't agree with that. I don't agree guys are the root of all evil, things like that. But there's more intricate parts of feminism that I also don't agree with, that I'm still trying to figure out why I don't agree with them.
I struggle with it in terms of when you call out racism, when you call out anything, you're calling out what the minority is and calling attention to it in a way that I think can be negative. And so I think that I'm a little wary about which parts of my life I think are feminist.
Power structures and intersectionality have shaped the entirety of the way that we operate as a society, and I think for the most part it's actually limited people instead of making them maybe as happy or as free as they could be.
My experience has been that most men will say the right thing in public, and then when they're in a group of other men, they'll say wildly inappropriate things because they think it's kind of clubby.
It's almost like some kind of cultural fad, or that sounds awful, but I think a lot of times it becomes this social competition to see who knows more about the different things that are happening in feminism than actually doing something.
A lot of the world's most pressing challenges begin with women and girls.
The way I see it, half of the population is being undervalued and pushed down. We're wasting half the most beautiful minds on the planet. They're disadvantaged all across the world.
And the population issue, which is one of the leading factors in global warming, is directly associated with how many women and girls go to school. And the more women that are educated, there's a direct correlation that the more education you have, the fewer children you have, which decreases population size, which helps the environment. And that's just one instance, but there are so many problems that begin with women and girls being educated.
I've heard of new programs for training women how to be political or how to enter the political sphere so we can have more women in government.
I contribute a lot of my time to working on mentoring young girls for their empowerment and positive self-esteem and body image, and trying to create strong and healthy young women, and I think that that's a really important feminist cause.
The real feminist movement is to helping the women that around the world that are just so put down. There's just no chance for them to even realize their dreams or have dreams.
I like to see the way that feminism and challenging power structures in all sorts of ways can make people A, understand themselves, and B, kind of challenge what they are and maybe what they could be.
We're women, we should have pride in that, and like there are so many awesome things that we can provide for the world. So that's